Let's be honest, sustainability can feel like a big, overwhelming word. But I often ask myself, what if it didn't have to be? What if we could talk about the messy, human, and sometimes even hilarious parts of trying to live a more conscious life without guilt, without greenwashing, or all the jargon? Well, this is it. Welcome to Candid Sustainability. You're listening to Candid Sustainability, the podcast that explores ways we try and sometimes fail to live more sustainably. I am Kabelo, a corporate sustainability PhD researcher navigating life across cultures and continents. Around here, we're not chasing perfection, but having honest conversations about what it really means to care about the planet in real life. We look at all the messy, meaningful, and sometimes hilarious parts of it, because sustainability isn't just for the experts. It's for all of us, trying our best, one imperfect day at a time. So on this podcast, we have honest reflections about trying, failing, but still caring about the planet. Sometimes when it's time to weigh in on sustainability discussions, I tend to hesitate. And not because I don't care. That is absolutely not the case. But I hesitate because I often feel like I'm not doing enough. And that's quite ironic, right? Considering I'm currently doing a PhD in corporate sustainability. My days are literally filled with reading papers, academic articles, and corporate strategies detailing what organizations should be doing to drive us to a more sustainable future. And I, of course, contribute to these conversations because big corporations do have the power to make the meaningful change. And I genuinely believe they do. But every now and then the spotlight shifts away from companies and onto individuals. It shifts onto me, for example. And I ask myself, what am I doing? And that's when the guilt really starts to creep in. Okay, so here's a little story. I used public transport for most of my adult life until I moved to the north of Sweden, and I was then exposed to the harsh winters. And honestly, there was also just a lot of logistical stress that then led us to buy a car. And not only that, but my partner bought us this hydroponics tower, and we grow our leafy greens, and yay, we're eating local, we're being sustainable. But then I also like to take really long, hot showers after work. You see what I mean? I choose vegetarian meals at lunch with my colleagues, and then when I get home, I throw meat in the oven because, well, I need some comfort food. I constantly live in this gray area, and I know that I'm not alone. So that's why I started this podcast, because I was tired of feeling like I had to be perfect to have a voice in sustainability conversations. I wanted to create a space where we can just talk about sustainability in an honest, messy way and really reflect on our choices, our shifting values, cultural nuances, identity, belonging, because I really believe that all of these things shape our choices. Not just the science, right? But the real life stuff. What it means to try, but to fall short and to then keep trying anyway. This moment felt right for me to start this podcast because I've spent years in academia and professional sustainability circles. Yet I've often felt like I was an outsider. So there's always this tension between what I know and how I live, really. And I feel like this tension that exists between what we all know and how we all live deserves its own conversation. If you are someone who cares about sustainability but doesn't always get it right, then you belong here. This is the podcast for you. This space is for people navigating the in-betweens, whether you're an academic, an activist, a curious thinker, or just trying to make sense of your place in this world. then you're invited. I invite you to this podcast. Look, in many sustainability spaces, I've often felt like I needed to sound a certain way, act a certain way, or even dress a certain way to be seen as sustainable. Like every time the sustainability crew meets up, like people, eco-friendly, every time they meet up, I tend to be there in those meetings because that's my field. But when I'm in the midst of these people, they are always in really thrifted, artsy outfits. And honestly, I think they look amazing. I think it's a great style. But the truth is, it's just not really my style. Sure, I do go to thrift stores every now and then, and I sometimes even find something I like in the store. But whenever I do, I get this twinge of guilt. I hear my grandmother's voice in my head, and I guess a lot of people who grew up in Southern Africa might understand this. I always hear my grandmother's voice literally in my head saying, never borrow clothes that have been worn. They carry other people's energies and it's going to mess up yours, right? And then there's also like conversations when I'm in these circles about stuff like dumpster diving, where people talk about it with pride. And I'm like, wow, I really admire that. Like, it's really bold of you. I never say that out loud, right? And really, there's always this quiet voice inside of me that says, where I come from, people dumpster dive because they have no choice. Like it's not because it's eco-conscious or progressive, they genuinely need to. And then I start to wonder, like, maybe sustainability isn't for people like me, right? We've worked so hard to be able to afford new clothes, to walk into a store and buy fresh groceries off of the shelf, ne? And now I'm being told that those things that we worked so hard to access are suddenly unsustainable. It's really confusing. It feels like it really feels like a tug of war sometimes. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what's happening? But then I remember, I'm like, okay, no, it's not so bad, because growing up, we used to eat vegetarian meals, I'll say, most of the week. And this was not a trend. This wasn't like a great lifestyle choice, right? But we did it because meat was for Sundays. We just knew that. And we used to like during the week, we ate from the garden, we ate local food, and we ate seasonal food because we ate what was in the garden. And we were not doing this to save the planet, not by any means. Or maybe we subconsciously knew, I don't know. But we did this because that's just how we lived. And even sometimes when I feel a bit disconnected from like this Western ideal of a sustainable lifestyle, eating local, being vegetarian, vegan, all of that stuff, I'm like, okay, sometimes I really feel disconnected. But then sometimes I remember that our way of life has always held some kind of environmental wisdom. It really held a deep wisdom how we used to live when I was growing up. And I'm reminded that our sustainability choices, which were shaped by our culture and the need for survival in some instances, those also matter. Those also contribute towards a more sustainable world, I'd like to think. And then I then suddenly feel then like all my life's sustainability choices, most of them were probably poverty inflicted, but I then wonder, does that mean that I can offset my current long hot showers? Or how do I put this? Like all the sustainable choices that I did growing up, the culture, the way we used to live, does that offset my long showers? Should they? Do they? I don't know. I sometimes wonder, I'm like, well, I've lived most of my life so sustainably. Maybe having a long hot shower every day doesn't really count because most of my life was sustainable anyway. Let me know what you guys think. Engage with the Candid Sustainability community on Substack. And if you're listening on YouTube or anywhere where you listen to your podcast, please leave a comment and let me know what your views are. I will say this, though, that sustainability shouldn't be a trend or a type. I think we can all agree on that. For me, I feel sustainability is about care, it's about connection, and I want us to have these conversations together, these candid conversations. I want candid sustainability to feel like that conversation you would have in the kitchen when you're washing dishes with your friends and your family, and you're just talking honestly and you're reflecting, and there's this moment where you think, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Or, oh, maybe I should try that out. Maybe I should try out thrifting if it's something that you haven't done. So please share your reflections. Let me know what you would like us to discuss and what you'd like us to share in this podcast. And do share it with your friends and your families so we can grow this community and have these much needed conversations. While we're having these conversations, we'll be able to contribute to saving the planet while we're at it. But now I would like to thank you guys for tuning in, and please don't forget to subscribe so you do not miss the next episode. Share this with someone who's ever felt like sustainability isn't for them, but they want to do a little bit more on it. Follow me on Substack and Instagram for more reflections between episodes. Thanks for being here. Whether you're sipping coffee in your kitchen or walking between places, I am so glad we're starting this journey together. Let's make sustainability candid, and importantly, let's make it ours. And as for the next episode, where we will be exploring green guilt. You know that feeling you get every time you have to buy a plastic bag at the store because you forgot your tote bag at home? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So follow us or subscribe so you don't miss that reflection. See you on the next one, and keep doing your best.